My name is Lisa Leno. My parents are Dave and Lynn Leno. My grandparents are the late Arnie and Maxine McKnight Leno. My great-grandparents are David and Emma Tom Leno and Thomas and Elvira Langley McKnight. I get super nervous at these things. Last week, I was recognized for 21 years of service working for the tribe. I started in the education department when we were actually located in the Modzillas on the highway. I have had the privilege to develop our tribal preschool, our youth education, and our youth prevention programs from the ground up. I have gained a lot of skills while I've been working for the tribe. It's been an awesome opportunity for me. I have a strong skill set in budget management, program and policy development, grant writing, grant management, program evaluation. The most meaningful experience I believe I've had in the last 21 years have been the ability to work directly with our membership. It has been an honor to learn from our membership and to serve them. And my work with the youth is a passion of mine. I have loved every bit of that, and I really appreciate the opportunity that the tribe has provided me. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. So, let me have a show of hand of who would like to use their 3 minutes next. And so we'll go to David, and I typically just ask for volunteers, and then we'll go to Tanya, and everybody will get an opportunity. So, David.
Hi, Mercier, everybody. Thank you for coming again today and coming to see us all, and I welcome your questions at some point. On Facebook last night, I released a document I was working on for a couple days that kind of builds upon some of the questions and answers we had last time in the forum, and actually questions that have been kind of burgeoning on Facebook for a number of years and other conversations in tribal council meetings and stuff. And one of these questions has been, are we going to freeze per cap? What are we going to do with our per cap? What's going to happen with our per cap when our casino earns less money? We're going to have less per cap. Is that what's going to happen? And I don't know the answer to that question right now. We don't really know the impact of the new casino yet. But one thing I do know is that much of our development in our community has been kind of static. I mean, I feel that when I worked in the tribe that there wasn't a really good comprehensive program for developing the tribal resources and sort of utilizing our wealth to invest in the community, invest in other places in Oregon, so that we can sort of make the casino profits less important than they are today. Because casino profits are pretty much where it's at. What we get from the casino is where our per cap is. We get some per cap for timber, but really we're 90%, 80 to 90% reliant on the casino profits. And so, my thought is, why don't we get more community involvement? Community people working on these issues, do some sort of community investing program where we ask for and have a project of ideas from the community, to decide what they want to do in the Grand Ronde area to help develop services out there, and also utilizing that model. What other businesses can we work on in Oregon? Do we work in agriculture? Do we work in coffee houses, or do we, have a water park? What else do we want to do to supplement our overall money that we're making in the tribe, so that the casino is not such a huge burden? I mean, such a huge piece of that puzzle. And so, which can nowadays look like a burden to us. And so, if you guys want to, at some point in the meeting, come up here and grab one of these flyers. I did a two-side flyer and read it. If you have questions throughout the meeting, we can talk about that more. And I think the big gold hook is coming out now. But I just really think that I would like to see our council work on ways to involve our community more in our decision-making processes and basically mobilize our wealth. Thanks.
Thanks, David. Tanya.
So good morning. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to the candidates that are here, and good luck to you all. So my name is Tanya Gleason Sheepheck. I am the descendant of Chief Sangretta. My mother is Laura Gleason. My grandmother was Phyllis Kierton, and my great-grandmother was Adeline Howler. I've been on council 3 short years now. Went by very fast. It's truly been an honor for me to work on council, work with the tribal members, and I do hope to be able to continue that. You know, as far as my priorities, my first priority would be to protect and grow what our elders have already put in place for us, the programs, the services, the endowments, those kind of things. So protecting and preserving and growing those things. And then after that, for me, it's about improving the direct services to the tribal members. As far as increasing per capita, I think one of the things that we can do, that we are doing, but we need to continue to do and do a little bit more, is investments in health, you know, education, and livable wage jobs for the tribal members. I think if we continue with our prevention for like heart disease, diabetes, drug and alcohol, even tobacco, that would reduce some of our health costs. And our health cost is our biggest expense on our gaming dollars. Education and livable wage jobs, obviously those would help our tribal members become self-sufficient, where they're not relying on gaming dollars to meet their basic needs. So I think we need to continue to make progress there, and we have made progress. I learned about a month ago that for example, our kids in foster care, our numbers are way down. A lot of our kids are not choosing to drink alcohol, and some of those things will take a little bit longer to see the results, but those are very important investments. And I also believe in the long term those will reduce our reliance on gaming dollars, which then would increase per capita. And also investments in economic development, and I do believe we're doing a lot in that area. We need to do more in the local area that I think would help with education and jobs for tribal members. But I'm happy you're all here, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Great timing, Tanya. So by the way, so there are snacks and food in the back, water as well. I want to make sure everybody got some water up here because you guys are going to be speaking for a couple hours. So who would like to go next to use their 3 minutes, whether to introduce themselves or talk about anything? Chris?
Well, base is pretty heavy on this thing, isn't it? I didn't do a particularly good job with my opening because the 2 minutes went by really quick, and I felt like I got cut off a bit by my own brother of all people. So if there's anything that I would like to emphasize with my campaign this year, it's that I believe tribal members have a right to information about what goes on with the tribe. I think in terms of like a policy standpoint, there's kind of 2 prongs we're dealing with. There's the openness within the government itself. We are, I feel, taking steps to open up our government more. It's not quite to my satisfaction, but we're developing a tribal listserv so we can start emailing tribal members updates on all sorts of things. We're declassifying a lot of documents. We've enacted a policy after which a certain amount of years, certain tribal documents become declassified. And we've brought back the tribal newsletter, which I wish every council member would submit articles into it, but that's my personal preference. And we're uploading to the tribal website records of decision from the council. Communication, I think, is a bit trickier because I think communication is something that comes down to each tribal council member individually. And while I would like to see tribal council members speak more at general council meetings, give reports, report more on their travels and what they're doing, I'm not sure how you draft laws that enforce that. But somebody told me after the last forum that I need to emphasize some of the things I've done just as much as the things I'd like to do. And when I kind of look back at the body of work that I've developed myself individually as a council member, I've had 2 different blogs. I think between the 2 of them, I've done over 500 posts. This is over a 10-year span, excluding the 1 year off. Including the 1 year off when I was in Michigan. My posts usually range from 400 to 600 words. I do podcasts. These videos, I spend a lot of my free time editing. So I guess to me is I get slightly defensive when people imply that tribal council members don't do a lot to communicate with members, because I feel individually as a council member, I've done a lot and I've got an extensive body of work to prove that. I think I'm up to almost 25,000 hits on my blog, 4,000 or 5,000 hits on YouTube and all the videos I've posted, several thousand hits on the podcast. And I do a lot of this in my spare time, and I do it because I think members have a right to know. And we've got a tribal publication that only comes out twice a month. That's very different from what you see in the real world, where most politicians exist in this world of 24-hour news media. So I'd like to see us increase the frequency with which we communicate important information to our tribal members. I think we're in the process of doing that. Again, it's not to my satisfaction, but I honestly believe as tribal members, you guys all have an inherent right to know what's going on within your government, and I think you can expect that your tribal leaders will spend as much time and energy as they can communicating to you what they're doing. So that's what I stand for in a nutshell.
Thanks, Chris. Angela?
Good morning. My name is Angela Shalabi. I am the great-granddaughter of John and Esther Labonte. My grandparents are Marie Quigley Labonte and Gilbert Shalabi. My parents are Rob Shalabi of this tribe, and my mother is Rolanda, also known as Peggy Bersenio. She's of the Turtle Mountain Chippewa tribe out of Elkhorn, North Dakota. Thank you all for being here. Like I said, the last PAC meeting, I'm probably one of the most unknown people on this campaign, and so I feel like it's important for me to introduce myself and what I stand for. I've worked at the casino for almost 14 years. I started in finance, I worked in marketing and human resources, and I am now in the IT department. I have volunteered for the courts, the tribal courts, Tribal Member Review Board, for almost 13 years as a board member who reviews case files. And my focus in my campaign is actually hiring practices throughout the tribe as well as the casino. I would like to focus on employee turnover and the reasons for that, economic development as well as disenrollment. I feel education is a very, very important part of this tribe, and it helps our members become successful. I hear a lot of people asking for change every year. Everybody's talking about, well, maybe we get change, maybe we get change. So I encourage each of you to just get out there and vote. I also understand that there's not many people who do follow up with voting, and so I encourage everybody to vote, and that's your right. I did bring some applications to vote, the voter signature verification forms. If anybody needs to sign up to vote, they're here for you. And I am hoping that I get a chance to actually sit and chit-chat with some of you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. So Mark or Michael, any preference? Paper, rock, scissors? Okay, Mark.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. My name is Mark Mercier, and I served on the tribal council between 1984 and 1999. And at that time, the tribe, through a 4-year effort, acquired some BLM lands that became the tribe's timberland or reservation. Then in about 1992, they started pursuing the gaming. And so in 1995, you see the result of that, the establishment of the Spirit Mountain Casino. I have 3 subjects I wish to touch upon. And given the time restraint, I'll have to really go through them quickly as I can. The first one is I want to see the tribe continue to aggressively promote its education program, for all the tribal member youth. And to make sure that those opportunities are available to all tribal members regardless of where they live, by helping them secure funding for further education or trade school or what have you. The next issue was a lot of people were telling me about the enrollment. They thought there's several flaws in there. And so the only assurance I could give them is just to take a look into it and just to see if there is any discrepancies in the whole policy. And so I'm not sure what I can do, but I'd be willing to at least look into the issue. The third, and to me, this is the one that I think the tribal council and the tribe as a whole needs to be paying very close attention to. Because since we know the tribe gets a lot of funding from the federal government, we now have a president who wants to bolster the defense budget. He's certainly not the first one who have done it. But if he does, it's always going to be the domestic programs that's going to suffer for it. He clearly has no support for any kind of minorities at all, and that includes Indian tribes, believe me. He made a pretty substantial fortune off of gaming, so it didn't sit well with him, when all the tribes started getting into gaming as well. So he is now tinkering with the Obama health care plan, and he will do all he can to dismantle it. Hopefully he won't be successful, but until he gets out of office, the tribe is going to have to watch that very closely and come up with some kind of a contingency plan in the event that he does get his way. And then there's nothing to say that he won't try to do something with gaming either. So you see what's happening like in the Dakotas with respect to the pipeline construction. The tribes back there managed to put a halt to it. But once that he got sworn in office, then now the work is already continuing on that pipeline. So there are just many crucial issues facing this tribe and all the other tribes in this whole nation. So after that, later on, I'll be open for questions should anybody have those.
Thanks, Mark. All right, Michael.
Hi everyone, I'm Michael Langley. I ran for council last year. I'm running again this year. Thank you everybody for coming. I was hoping for even a bigger turnout. A little bit disappointed about that, but good to see the people that did come. Good to see that you are involved, and we need more of that. My background, I know some people have been saying that, but they don't really know who your family is, but it is important to other people. And for my family, going back 3 generations, Alice Quinnell was my grandma, great-grandma. My grandpa was Roy Langley, and Delia Langley was my grandma. My parents are Leonard and Rose Langley. I think it is important, those family ties. I really believe in the concept of the 7 generations, and so to me it is important to know where you came from and where you're going. So that's why we mention those things. As far as my background, my education is in accounting, and I actually still do some accounting work for some nonprofits. It's a very rewarding job and doesn't take me a lot of time, so I'm able to do that. I've been working at the casino for 8 years now in internal audit, although they have a much fancier name. We're called Corporate Audit Services, but everybody would need to know it's just internal audit. And it's been a really rewarding job. I've met a lot of people, learned a lot about the industry, and I think that's important because it is our breadwinner. It's that the bulk of all our money comes from that. And I've seen all those operations, and I think having that person at the table, at the council level, with all the experiences, working with all the people in all their various jobs, I think that's a good voice to have at the table. I've been trying to decide how I was going to talk about this, and it's because normally there's a lot of silly stuff that shows up on Facebook, and there's a lot of just innuendo and accusations and silly questions that get asked to get you to respond, and I usually choose never to respond to them. But it just seems like this thing just has legs of its own. So there was a Wednesday night meeting where Steve Bob made the statement that a tribal council member and a tribal council candidate were drinking at the powwow. Something along those lines. There was some kind of report that tied them to that. Now, for me, I would never drink at the powwow. I would never bring drugs or alcohol to the powwow. And I would never be seen publicly drunk and exhibiting drunkenness anywhere, let alone the powwow. And so I just ignore these things because it's really not going to be directed at me, even though they're naming a candidate. But after that meeting, I thought, well, that's really weird. So I reached out to my circle of people, which includes Steve Holmes, and Steve Holmes has been on the powwow committee for a number of years. And so I just asked him, so if there's an allegation against somebody bringing in alcohol or sloppy drunk at the powwow, what's the procedures for that? And what he told me, and I got his permission to use his name, was what he would do, what they do is they contact the individuals, they determine if there's any validity to that, and then if they're drunk, they'll just simply ask them to leave. And I said, well, what if these people are never contacted? And he said, well, if they're never contacted, there won't be a report. And so for me, I'm thinking, well, I'm a tribal council candidate. So nobody's ever contacted me. I've never had any of it discussed with me. So clearly, there's going to be no report naming my name. But then, Facebook just keeps getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and it's a public forum. So, another tribal member seems to know what's in this confidential report and has named me, and has named Chris, and has named Denise, and I'm still surprised by that because to this day, I have never been contacted by anyone about anything like that, were you doing this, were you doing that? No security has contacted me, no nothing. And I was with all these council members at the powwow. So I don't know why I'm being fingered that. I've never seen a report. And like I said, I normally never even address these issues, but it was just something that when people are coming up to me and saying, so what happened? People are talking about people being stumbling drunk at the powwow. At some point, I think you have to address that. And so that's why I'm talking about it. I don't know for sure. It could just be somebody is saying that and they don't really know who's in that report. But it sure seems like they know. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity to waste some of your guys' time by making this statement that I would never be bringing alcohol or drugs to the powwow. And so hopefully we can get past that part. I'm not ever going to talk about this again. I just think when you address these things, you kind of give them legs, and you get chased down a rabbit hole and things. And so I always just leave those things alone. But I just felt like since I hadn't said anything, that I need to say something, and I want to take this opportunity to do that. And I really do think we have much bigger things to take care of. I have a lot of ideas. I'm hoping some of these questions I can talk about those more, and I will. And I'd be glad to meet with anybody and everybody. After this, I'll give you my phone number and you can call me. So hopefully we can get past the silly season of the campaign stuff. And I would love to see all of us really just focus on the things that are important. I know for me, if any of my supporters or any of my family are saying anything, mudslinging, stuff like that, I'm going to call them out on that. And I think that's kind of what we need to do as a tribe. We need to focus and redirect our efforts, and then call each other out for things. That's kind of takes a village to get to that, and I think that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Michael. So I gave Michael a lot of extra time there, mostly because it seemed to be something pretty serious and sincere that he wanted to get out. But that being said, I want to give other folks an opportunity to maybe talk about this issue if we want to. He went for 7 minutes, so there's an extra 4 minutes for each of you all. But I do think this is an issue that we should talk about. Facebook and social media and the innuendo and the misinformation. Let's just say this is like Russia hacking our elections last year. There's a lot of fake news that floats around. So what do we as a tribe do to put an end to this and talk about the issues that are important? So let's lead that. So there's 4 minutes. I'm going to make sure that you all get this equitable time here to the course of the next couple hours. But I'll give you each 4 additional minutes if you want to talk about that subject. Innuendo, fake news, whatever. Anybody want to, David?
I guess I'm really energized by this subject as well. And for me, I was at the council meeting too when this all came up, and I was really kind of put aback by this whole process. The process of somebody bringing this to the attention of the tribe by coming to a council meeting and talking about it, and sort of like innocent. We saw this, and we had a discussion afterward. We saw this kind of almost like spreading the rumor at the council meeting. And I asked that question. I went up to the podium and I asked the question. I said, "Is this the process? Does a report like this in a powwow just immediately go to council for them to have meetings and discuss this? Is that the process?" It turns out from what Mike said, that's not the process. And it turns out there was no investigation. So now we have this issue out there in the public, spread by a member of that committee, who said at first he didn't want to spread rumors, or he wanted to clear up the rumors. And that process should have been shut down by council. It should have been considered more of an HR issue, internal HR issue. They should have stopped the whole discussion and said, "We will discuss this in chambers with HR and with the proper authorities in the tribe." And I learned from working at the tribe for 8 years, that's what you do. I mean, you don't bring up these personal issues where people's names get spread all over everywhere in a public process like that. And I'm really concerned that this will affect the politics this summer, and I'm really concerned that is the mudslinging. That if that's the way, if that's the level of what we're at today, then I think that things need to change. I'm really concerned about this whole thing.
Anybody? Mark, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I don't really do much Facebook at all. And this is just one of the reasons why. I mean, people cannot control what other people do on the social media. And to me, I was at the powwow, but I had nothing to drink before I got there, and I saw no one else drinking or anything like that. So, but when you start hearing people make these kind of allegations, to me, it's just distracting everybody from the crucial issues that we still have to face. So we have to separate the facts from the witch hunt, or else we'll never get anywhere, period.
Thanks, Mark. Anybody else want to talk to this issue? Tom? Yeah, Chris?
Chris, do you want to go first?
You go.
Okay, I'll just be short, but I would agree with David. I would agree with David that when it was brought to the council meeting Wednesday night, council could have handled that a lot better. And I think that we should have very simply said, you know, that we'll look into the report and follow up. And in my opinion, it got very unprofessional at the council meeting. And I guess I disagree a little bit with Michael when he says he just ignores these things. And I think to a certain extent on Facebook, you have to kind of let a lot of that just roll off of you. But this was a employee that made a report. Those cannot be ignored. I don't think they should be publicly tried. But it is our responsibility to look into any complaint or concern that an employee makes and determine if they're valid or if there needs to be action taken. That'd be one of the reasons that council created the report it line so that employees can make their concerns or complaints known anonymously. So I think it should have been handled exactly like we would handle one of those situations. And then as far as Michael's comment about that candidates should, I don't remember exactly what you said, but control their family on Facebook or correct their family on Facebook. And I'll just say, you know, I come from a large family, and I know that some of my extended family are on Facebook and they're negative. And just for the record, I have talked to them. I have asked them not to be negative, and I have even told them it reflects poorly on me, but I cannot control what other people do.
Chris?
I really don't want to devote a lot of time to this because we devoted so much time to it Wednesday. I was not intoxicated at the powwow. I have never been approached by security officers. I've never been interviewed by police. And I'll state what I said Wednesday. It bothered me that that was the manner in which this accusation was thrown out there. And I felt like guilt was presumed Wednesday night. It was not a particularly good meeting, but I think if we're honest, you know, we've all kind of been waiting for these elections to take a nasty turn. And while some people can say it's unrelated to the election, we've had a number of incidents, real incidents, with council members and alcohol, and I don't recall them ever being discussed in depth or sprung upon people in a Wednesday night meeting. So what I saw happen Wednesday night was, you could say, unprecedented. Again, I would just say social media, and people call me a wannabe lawyer, so I'm going to sound like a wannabe lawyer when I say this. You know, social media is not the same as bona fide news media. When certain lawsuits are filed, like defamation or lawsuits involving secret sources, they apply differently to someone just posting on social media than an actual journalist. And so that's why I think social media has the potential to do a lot of good in this world and in this tribe, but I also think it has the potential to do a lot of damage, because people can post whatever they want. They don't have to verify it, and they can post it forever and ever and ever. So you really have to take a lot of what you read on social media with a grain of salt. It can be a reliable source of information, but it's also can be a very unreliable source of information. And I think that's why when people get taken to court for defamation, the journalist gets treated differently than someone with a Facebook account. And as far as I know, more states are starting to recognize social media posts as evidence in court, and there's a reason for that. But the advent of social media in many states and countries meant a rise in defamation suits, because people are out there and they want to spread bad rumors about people, and that's what they do. So again, that's about all the time I want to commit to this subject, really.
Lisa?
I wasn't at the meeting, but I did get to watch it, and I think there could have been handled differently. However, I do want to say I've worked on the powwow committee for a very, very long time on the contest powwow. Not every issue is handled exactly like Steve described it. We do our best to address issues when they come up. We work with security, we work with law enforcement. There's a lot of different things that happen at the time. You're doing a lot of different things. You're handling different situations, so it's not always handled that way. Should be, but not always, in terms of not just drinking, but other things that happen where we have to ask people to leave. The other piece of it I would just kind of caution people is that we're assuming this was a political issue. And that may or may not be the case, but it also could be somebody reporting, whether that's been handled correctly or not, but reporting what they felt. And I haven't seen a report, I haven't heard, I didn't hear any names mentioned at the council meeting. I don't know what's happened since that. But I just really would caution people to assume that this was political. I hope that it was not.
I was at the powwow. I don't know when this allegedly happened, but I did sit with Chris as well as Michael and Tonya and Denise for quite a long time, and I visited with them throughout the evening, and I did not smell any alcohol on any of them. But I did want to touch on Facebook and allegations that are being spread on Facebook. I too am, I guess I'm a major subject on Facebook and have been for quite some time. Recently, my ex and I have had some very personal issues, and which have been dealt with, but it seems people want to continue and talk about them, and I'm open to talk to anybody about it. So if anybody ever feels like they want more information on my personal life, I'm happy to share that with you. But I really don't want to focus on my personal life in this campaign. I want to focus on what we can do as a tribe. And I hope that people do feel like they can approach us and ask us. If you have questions about somebody, please don't assume what you hear on Facebook is correct. Approach any of us and just ask us directly. I think as a council, should any of us be successful and get elected, we need to be open with our membership. Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. So we're going to shift gears and get into some questions. The PAC's question today for you all pertains to a lot of us that don't live in Grand Ronde and work in Indian country are often faced with Grand Ronde's broader reputation in the rest of Indian country and in the Northwest. And I think it's safe to say that we don't have the highest reputation right now with other tribes. And it's very concerning. I have, over the last 15 years of my career, had to kind of apologize when the folks learned that I'm Grand Ronde. And the reason behind that is a lot to do with gaming, but it's a lot to do with our relations with other tribes. We have, over the years, gotten very, very isolated, in my opinion. That's not to say that folks don't like us individually, but I'm talking more broadly as a tribal government. Our reputation, to be honest, in my opinion, is at one of its lowest it's ever been. And I think that's something that we at the PAC we need to work on. We need to be proactive about and improving and reintegrating Grand Ronde into the broader Northwest community. I'll give you an example. So I run the Vulnerable Powers Fish and Wildlife Program. I'm executive manager, $300 million a year program. We work with 30 tribes around the region. Most of the tribes in Oregon and Washington have a group that gets together to work with us. The one tribe that doesn't, Grand Ronde. They won't allow Grand Ronde to be in that broader coalition because of all the mistrust and misdeeds that are occurring. And that's something that I see on a daily basis. I recuse myself from anything related to Grand Ronde because of my position and whether I'm a member. But I can't ignore this obvious thing where there's a coalition of 19 tribes that are in the Lower Columbia, and then Grand Ronde off on its own. So we have two sets of meetings when we meet. We have to meet with Grand Ronde separately when we meet with the others. And that is something I think we as a people need to address and be honest about, is that we've been somewhat isolated over the last 15 years. What are you all going to do as candidates to fix this, to reintegrate Grand Ronde into the broader tribal governments in the region? So be thinking about that. Take a moment. I'll ask for a show of hands of who would like to go first. Chris?
I'm glad you asked this question because you and I argue about this a lot in private. And you and I don't agree with it. Well, we don't completely agree. I mean, I understand what you're saying about Grand Ronde's reputation amongst other tribes. And I think that's limited to several issues and I think a number of tribes. But I don't think Grand Ronde's, I don't think if you go to the National Congress of American Indians, every other tribe that goes there is going to give you the cold shoulder. But there are very specific issues that have caused animosity between us and very specific tribes. One of them, of course, was our opposition to the Gorge Casino. The other one was our opposition to Cowlitz Casino. And the other one was just several issues pertaining to us in Siletz. All we can really do, I think, is figure out ways in which we have common ground with those tribes and work with them. But I think there's going to be certain situations where they're not going to change their position and we're not going to change ours. And all we can really do is not allow the animosity from those other issues to bleed into some of the more common issues that we have with those tribes. I will say, though, that you're talking about Grand Ronde's reputation amongst other tribes. I think Grand Ronde has a good reputation among a lot of non-tribal governmental entities. And I know this because for a very long time I worked with the Council of Governments. A lot of the local towns, counties and stuff, they really respect the tribe and they appreciate the contributions that the tribe has made to state and local governments. And I work with the Council of Governments. I attend a lot of the city county dinners with Denise. So there's the tribal facet that you're talking about, but there's also, I think, the relationship that Grand Ronde has with other non-tribal governments. I feel like right now we have a great relationship with Cape Brown. I do think things got unnecessarily ugly in 2006 because of Grand Ronde's involvement in the governor election that year. But I think for the most part we have a lot of good relationships with people. There are several of them that stand out, and if you're asking me for like some sort of specific idea that's just going to mend those relationships, the animosity that's built up over years, I don't know that there's any single action we can do that can alleviate that. But what we can do, and what I feel like a lot of council members have been doing, is just have a lot of face-to-face meetings, get to know a lot of these tribal leaders on a personal basis, and figure out what common ground there is that we can work on. And I do feel right now that we're doing that.
Thanks, Chris. Let's go next. Yes.
I agree with Chris. I think that it's great to have a strong relationship with the non-tribal government, but I also disagree with Chris because I do believe that it's important that we reach out to other tribes and we build strong relationships with other tribes. We need to remember where this tribe was not too long ago. We had nothing. It's important for us to be able to help other tribes become successful if that's what they're looking for. Why not? I don't understand why we're not doing that. I would definitely encourage strengthening the relationships, but before doing so, I also have a lot to learn. I need to learn, why are the relationships failing? Why are they not wanting to talk to us? Is it the current council? Is it something that council had done in the past? What are the reasons for this? But yeah, I definitely think the open communication with other tribes would be good for us.
So Tom's going to go next, and then Michael.
So I think Chris covered it pretty well. He's exactly right that a lot of this stems from our opposition to the Gorge, the Cowlitz, and some specific issues with Siletz. But I do believe overall our reputation with the other tribes is actually pretty good. We've met with Coquille, Clements, and they all talk about how grateful they are for our 6% fund and the help we get them there. They even, Coquille specifically mentioned Mark and Catherine Harrison coming forward and helping them when no other tribe would do that. I think it's one of those things where a couple of negative things outshine all the good. And I also believe we could do some better education especially with our own tribal members. There was a recent general council meeting in Portland, as a matter of fact, where one of our tribal members got up and made a comment about our relationship with Warm Springs, and it wasn't accurate, and Cheryl corrected him. And I think some of that misinformation is at fault here. And, you know, we need to work with other tribes, and we are doing that. We're meeting with every tribe in Oregon. We're looking at, you know, a Portland project. There's other projects that we're looking at with tribes. But honestly, we get painted the bad guy often. You know, we were terminated and then restored after 30 years. I don't believe that we went out picking fights with other tribes, but you do have to fight to protect what's yours. And sometimes that has not been very pretty. In our homelands, in our ceded lands, in our reservation, and those kind of fights have taken place, but we didn't start those. We're protecting those things, and that's our job for the tribal members.
David? Or Michael, do you want to talk?
Oh, sorry.
You're taking my turn here.
Yours too.
I've heard those comments too before, and I have friends from other areas, either in government or tribes, and I've heard what Bryan says. And I do think Tanya and Chris are right. A lot of it's around gaming, trying to protect our own sovereignty. I do think that's part of it. I think with the Cowlitz tribe, I too would have wished they would have settled in the Longview, Kelso area. I think that's really more their traditional homelands. And those communities needed the jobs. And it still would have been on I-5, and it still would have been the closest casino to Portland. And you know, they still would have made money. But I also have friends that kind of live in the Southwest that they don't understand why we fight over these casinos, because they have casinos right across the street from each other and everybody's making money. So I think the important thing, I mentioned earlier that I did work with nonprofits. And one of the things I learned in working with them, because I come from accounting, economic, analytical world, and working with these people, that's not their world. That's why it works for us, because I provide something that they don't have. But one of the things I learned, and it stuck with me, I think it's really great, is this concept of rupture and repair. So you might have a relationship, and a lot of times they're talking about with parents and children, but it works for any kind of relationship, where the relationship kind of ruptures. And that's okay, because that happens sometimes. You're going to have disagreements, you're going to have falling out, and you're going to have these things. But the important thing is the repair that goes behind that. And that's the reaching out also, and figuring out where is our common ground, where can we move forward. I used to work with designers and architects when I was doing project management, and there would be some all-out battles with each other where there's disagreements. And in the end, though, that was always put aside, and we move forward to the next project. And I think the way you do that, and I think Chris mentioned it, is those personal relationships. And I personally, I got a lot of contacts that I make when I go to conferences. They're instrumental for me, and just picking up the phone and saying, hey, how do you guys do things? And you learn a lot from those conversations. And for me, I would continue that kind of outreach across the board to everybody. Especially those relationships that have those ruptures, figuring out how we can repair those. So that's what I would say.
Go ahead, David. David, go ahead.
Wow, that's a huge issue. When I was at the tribe, I actually worked a lot on hunting rights, worked on our cultural claims on the northern side of the Columbia River, and it was pretty clear to me that a lot of tribes are trying to sort of almost invade our territory. But I think other tribes have seen us as one of the wealthy tribes in the area, and I think that we need to really embrace the native concept of potlatch. This notion that those tribes and people that are leaders in the community that have a lot, at some level need to give back, and that doesn't necessarily mean we give away all our money. What I'm suggesting is support for all kinds of things. When there's a native issue, when there's a huge issue that could affect us, that affects the Northwest, we need to be out there. We need to be out in front of it. There's all kinds of threats right now in the Northwest to water rights, to wildernesses like the Cascade, Siskiyou Wilderness, perhaps going to get shrunk. And I've yet to see Grand Ronde respond to that stuff in a public way. I mean, what do we think about that? These are areas, the Clay River, the Southern Oregon area, these are areas our tribes came from originally, many of our tribes. And yet I have yet to see a public comment directed at the change of policy of the government. So what I see is it's not, it's that we need to build up our base of support. I mean, supporting other tribes and finding ways to ally as much as possible. Could be little issues, could be big issues with other tribes against the federal government. Because right now, our biggest threat is the federal government. The removal, taking away a part of our budget, health care, and perhaps wilderness rights and things like that. I really believe, and I actually wrote about this some months ago, that the Trump administration is going to come after all kinds of tribal rights. They're going to come after tribal sovereignty. And I think that we're stronger working with all the other tribes. And we need to find ways to find common cultural issues to ally with other tribes on. Support them in their fights. Even if it's in the Upper Columbia, work on these issues. If it's in Washington State, work on the issues. We claim areas in Washington State, why don't we do that? We can claim areas all over Oregon. There's all kinds of ways we can support. We have a lot of cachet out there. We have a lot of influence. Use it for not just for ourselves, but for other tribes. When I was in the culture department, the tribe began asking questions about how we're spending our money on education. And they began saying, well, if you're in the Portland area, we really want you to only serve tribal people in the Grand Ronde Tribe. And I think that caused this sort of rift, that started causing this rift. That and the fights over casinos and stuff started causing a rift where other tribal people began realizing that Grand Ronde wanted only to use our wealth for ourselves. We're selfish. And once you can start getting that reputation, then a lot of titles fall by the wayside. I think we really need to utilize that concept of potlatch as a giveaway. We have a lot of stuff. We have a lot of talented people. We have education programs. We have a lot of really great programs in the tribe with really great people working in these programs. We can help lend our talent to help all the tribes in the area do better. Save sovereignty. Thanks.
Lisa.
I liked what David said about the fact that we are stronger together, and I do believe that if the tribes work together, we can accomplish more than we can accomplish on our own. I think we saw that in Standing Rock. I think that we do have some areas where we have really strong relationships with other tribes, and I can speak to our education program. In terms of education in the state of Oregon, we work very well with other tribes to work with colleges, schools, to make sure that our Native youth are getting the services that they deserve and the services that they need. So I also notice a lot of work that's being done in terms of other programs, in terms of Indian child welfare, in terms of prevention. We have a prevention cohort. We meet every 3 months. We work together. We have managed to levy a lot of money that has now gone directly to tribes that used to go directly to states. So I think there is a lot of work, good work that's being taken place. I think that we could capitalize on that. I do think there's going to be some things that we're just not going to be able to agree on, and I think that we can still move forward.
Thanks, Susan. Mark, you want to bring us back? You got a lot of, I think you have a lot of history you can share, I think, at least.
Yes, I do. Okay, first of all, when I served on the tribal council, one of the things that I can proudly say we did was work closely with the other tribes, including the Warm Springs tribe. Between 1984 and 88, the tribe embarked on getting the tribe's reservation back. We went to countless meetings. And believe me, if there's anyone in this room that thinks that racism is dead in Oregon, believe me, it is alive and it is well. And it is just going to come back again. It manages to rear its head quite often. And so the Warm Springs tribe really was helpful to the Grand Ronde tribe in coming up at different meetings where they were a member of that would help swing the vote against hostile entities attempting to derail the reservation plan at that time. Another thing that we used to work closely with not only the Warm Springs tribe, but the other tribes in Oregon and Washington would be analyzing all the funding formulas set forth by the Bureau of Indian Affairs or the Indian Health Service. And we got a lot of positive things done at that time, where we would strategize and working with members of Congress to help them bird dog what the previous administrations were doing. And so if I get elected, you can rest assured that that'll be one of the things that I do. Because I think we did a good job when I was on there the last time.
Thanks, Mark. So I'll return to the audience in a second, but so 2 weeks ago I had, I go every year representing Bonneville to the Piamsha Tree Days at the Warm Springs. And I just would like to say that all 9 tribes were there, save one. You can guess which one didn't send a representative to Piamsha and Warm Springs this year. And it was our tribe. So it's very embarrassing to go to these events where tribes send everybody, but we didn't have anyone there. So I think the first step to fixing the problem is admitting that we have one. And I agree that it's not on every issue, but I feel strongly that we do have an issue of rebuilding our relationships with our regional tribes. So I'm just glad. So let's turn to the other. Do you have a comment?
I had another comment. I had hoped to hear from one of you up there. A good example, another good example is the federal recognition for our Chinook brothers and sisters. A simple thing as screening that documentary that I came to council about a few months ago at Grand Ronde and issuing a public statement of support for their federal recognition. I know we gave them money, but sometimes money isn't what it takes. It takes a public policy statement, and so that is something that can only help us, in my opinion. So that was something I was hoping to hear from one of the 7 of you.
Does anybody want to talk about that? Where you stand on? Can we make that a question, Debbie? Maybe just quickly, and maybe.
How do you feel? How can you support the Chinook Nation, or how do you feel, publicly?
Would you be willing to, if elected, support the Chinook Nation's restoration, the recognition? So I think Mark had his hand up first. So let's go with Mark, and then we'll go David and Michael. So Mark, go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, about the thing that any tribe can do, if there's a tribe that is actively pursuing federal recognition, that they, no doubt that they should at least show their support for it. Because I know we supported other tribes that were pursuing it, so I don't see why this would be any different.
David, and then Michael. With David, then Michael, then Chris. David.
Absolutely. I've been supporting Chinook Nation restoration since the 1990s. I work with Tony Johnson on various issues, understand the culture behind it all. They were terminated with us in our Termination Act, because they're listed in the Chinook people, listed in that Termination Act. So absolutely, they should be restored. They were the first tribes that were visited by the Americans here, and they should be honored for that. They absolutely have a living culture, and right now I can't understand, I mean I understand, but I can't understand why the federal government would listen to anybody else and not restore them again, because they actually were restored, but you know, for whatever reason, Mr. Bush Jr. decided to terminate them again. So, probably one of the only tribes that have been terminated twice. Thanks.
Yeah, Michael and Chris.
Well, of course, David, right at the end, stole what I was going to talk about. But yeah, they were approved, and GW rescinded it, which, you know, is horrible. And I really thought it might get reintroduced a lot faster than it has. And I've worked with Tony too, within the language program, and kept a little bit of contact with them. And you're right, their culture is alive and well. So, of course, I'd support them. You know, we needed support for us to give our termination ended. And I think it's sad that if we aren't reaching out to the other tribes and helping them out.
Chris. Then Andrew.
So this question's a little difficult to answer because I don't want to speculate on what other people are thinking or what they thought when we at one point we're going to make a decision on this. But I will say, Debbie, that you see me at the Chinook Winter Gathering. You see me at the Chinook First Salmon Ceremony. I didn't go to this one last month because I had the flu really bad. And I was really close friends with Ray Gardner when he was the chair. In fact, he invited me to sail with him on the Lady Washington, that ship that appeared in Pirates of the Caribbean, from Newport to Astoria in 2008. And we went to the front of the Columbia River and reenacted when the Chinook Indians met some Europeans for the first time. So I actually have a very close relationship with the Chinooks. At least I did with Ray, and I think I'm pretty good friends with Tony Johnson as well. We were poised to help the Chinooks in 2007, and that kind of got lost in the shuffle, I think. There was an election, there was turnover, and I don't want to state why I think most of the council did not formally supporting their recognition efforts. I can just say that I did. I'm not going to say the reasons they have weren't valid, but this is one of those things I would feel more comfortable that if you were to ask the people that weren't supportive of it. And a lot of that those discussions were held in executive session with our attorneys, with our lobbyists, so I'm not comfortable discussing that publicly, but at one point it was being seriously considered, and it didn't happen. But we did try and find ways to support them where we could. Wink Soderberg, I think, in 2011 or 2012, pre-Michigan, that's my timeline, went and sat with them at their some testimony in DC, and then we did make a pretty substantial financial donation to them 2 years ago. So I do feel like we've supported them where we could, but maybe not to the depth that some people would like to see us do.
Thank you.
Angela. And then we go to Lisa. I wasn't sure. I saw you got the mic, so okay. Whoever's next on that. So go ahead.
Thanks for that question, Debbie. I wanted to say yes, I absolutely do support Chinook Nation becoming federally recognized. We know what it's like to be terminated, and if you're a tribal member, just being able to say that is a very proud statement to make, and I think that they deserve the opportunity to be recognized, and I would absolutely support, not just financially, but I think personally support them. They need to know that they have people behind them, and it would be great for the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde to do that.
Okay. So Tony, I guess it's you talking about.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's a great question, Debbie. And I wasn't on council in 2007. I would be interested in hearing what the reasons for not providing more support were. But I would support helping them. I think Tony Johnson's been out to the tribe and met with council since I've been on council, and I would be open to inviting him again and finding out exactly what he would like from us and helping them do that. Instead of us just writing a letter, I think we need to find out from him what he needs and then providing that.
Lisa.
I too support the Chinook Nation becoming federally recognized. I'm sure that there are many of you here that know that the Chinook people were the first ones that invited us to attend tribal journeys, and we have traveled with them in some capacity in every journey since then. And we do have close ties and relationships. We take the floor with them, we sing with them, we dance with them. We have shared a lot over the years, and we have heard their stories and seen their struggles. And I definitely would hope that whoever is on tribal council would really work hard to be able to provide the support they need.
All right, next question, Mike.
Okay, if you were to get on council and you could change or implement anything completely unopposed, whether it be an ordinance or a policy, what would that be and why?
So what one thing, if you had the power to change, and you were completely unopposed to change it, what would it be?
Or implement.
Or implement, or a new thing, yeah. So existing ordinance or change or something new that you. Mark?
Well, I guess the first thing I would attempt to do is talk it over with the tribal council, and if I knew I had enough to agree with me, then I would try to get it on the agenda and call for a formal vote, regardless of what the issue would be.
My question is, what is that issue? What is the one thing?
Well, I guess one thing that the three main topics that I previously touched upon are the ones I've been pursuing the most.
Anybody else have one?
Just one.
Just one.
What's the most important
what's
thing?
your most
You're
important
completely
thing?
unopposed.
David?
So it's up to you.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. This is what's it for you guys? What's the most important thing? David?
I don't know what I would do if I wanted to rule the world. But anyway. So I guess I go back to my flyer here, this notion that of community investing, change our investment policy, see if we can't find a way to invest using our tribe's wealth to benefit everybody in our community, and just change the model of how that decision is made, whether we need an investment committee or an economic development committee, what have you, but implement that sort of policy where we secure our nation's wealth for the future, because if we don't do that, we're going to remain vulnerable for a long time. And I don't yet see the property up here in Portland that we bought, the racetrack property, as really kind of developing any kind of wealth for 10 years. I think that's what they talked about this last week in council meeting. And even if they were allowed to put a casino up here, which could be a long fight, again, we're going back to our casino strategy. So we need to work on something else to sort of work on developing the community rather than just whatever the current money situation is, or whatever the one idea is in the council at that time. So engage with more of the community, devise plans, and begin following those plans to wealth management. Thanks.
Let's go next. I think Lisa was up, then Tanya, then Chris.
I think the most important thing to me is really the overall health and wellness of our people. I believe that we still struggle in a lot of areas in our community, and I would really like to see us promote a stronger sense of community through culture and work to develop programs that would best do that.
Tanya?
That is a hard question. One thing, because for me, I guess if I was God for one day, if I was the queen of the world, I would love for us to work with each individual tribal member and develop a specific plan for them to meet their basic needs. I think that's where our success is with our tribal members and their health, their education, their livable wage jobs, those issues are the most important, I think, right now. Reaching every tribal member and helping them become self-sufficient and be able to meet their own basic needs. I think that would promote our tribal members to a good place, and it would also help the tribe to a better place.
Thanks, Don. Chris?
Well, I hope I don't blow this, because there's a bunch of things I want to say. I think one's kind of unfair. But as I sit here, and this is a change that we're kind of working on, but I'd still like to see it be permanent, is I'd like for us to have some sort of system where if the general membership has an issue that they want to see voted on by the rest of the general membership, they can have it brought to a vote without tribal council possessing the ability to undercut it or stop it or anything like that. Because there is language for that in our Constitution. It's surrounded by petitioning requirements that I think are impossible to meet. We've got this present general council orders we've been working on, but again, you know, we got 30-something questions submitted. It's still, council's gonna have to play the bad guy to whittle it down, and those advisory votes aren't binding. So I would like to see just, and I don't know what the language would look like. I don't know if it'd be an ordinance or if it'd be a constitutional change, probably a constitutional change, just something where the general membership are empowered to bring forth their own issues to be voted on by the rest of the general membership. I like the system we have in Oregon where we get a vote on all these ballot initiatives. You know, we had the marijuana legalization. We've had a number of issues that as Oregonians we get a vote on, and I like that system. It's not perfect because issues can be brought forward that end up passing that you don't agree with, but I like the ability that voters have the power to bring forth their own issues despite what the legislature does.
Thanks, Chris. I'd like to go next. Angela?
Well, I think that we, or tribal council, can currently help our tribal members. That's not my main thing. I think we should be doing that right now. We should be listening to tribal council, tribal members, and so we can help them, listen to them currently. If there were one thing that I would want to focus on without any kind of rules stopping me, I would like to see our tribe allow other tribal blood to be included in the blood quantum. My concern is that our tribal membership, we're self-terminating. We really are. We have a lot of tribal members that their spouses are not tribal members, and so their children, most of them are unenrollable. And so my concern is to eventually limit the amount of tribal members that can be enrolled. And there's actually other tribes that currently include all tribal blood, and ours doesn't. So that would be my answer to your question, Mike. Thanks for asking that.
Well, first I might have to have a clarification. So is it waving a wand and it happens, or?
Yeah, you have something, whether it's an amendment that's happened, whatever it is. I mean, I thought Chris and Angela were right there with what I was talking about, that type of thing.
Okay, well, because I mean, I can think of a bunch of ways, and I'm trying to think if I can just wave a magic wand and this change would happen, then for me, my most important thing would be, and I was actually talking to David about this last weekend, and I don't remember which chief it was, but you know, they said, this isn't our land, but we'll make it our own. And for me, if I could wave that magic wand, since we started that reservation, we've never really brought all those tribes together and rowing together down the river, the journey that we've been doing. So if I could wave my magic wand and it would happen, Justine actually asked the question last weekend too about what you rank, and I ranked culture first. And I think that's kind of why I think it should be embedded in everything we do. And I say we have to wave a magic wand to make it happen because we've never really been able to do it. And even now we fight over what's culture and what's not. And I just think you know, the United States motto, the first motto is E pluribus unum, and, you know, from many one. And if I could change anything, that's what I would do. I would make us really come complete. I would make us know all our histories. I learned something just this week about how we treat and how we do things. So yeah, I would say the ability to bring our youth in, teach them our culture. I don't care if they're from New York or wherever. I would love to see, you know, each stage of your life, you know what you should know about your tribe in those stages of life. And I would make sure that somehow we implemented all that, but the overall objective at the end would be to make us one.
Thank you. Next question from the audience. Yeah.
I have a two-part question. What are your strengths and weaknesses? I want to learn about you as individuals that make you a good leader, what makes you a strong leader, and what are your demons. The second part of this is, how do you work as a team player? How do you build consensus, compromise, and negotiate with each other to actually achieve something? Because I think one of the biggest issues we have as tribal members is you haven't gotten a whole hell of a lot done. And I think a part of it is because we're not trying to build consensus. We're not trying to build a team. I want to know, each one of you, what you bring to the table for those.
Okay, so two-part. So I'm going to try to keep it to 3 minutes here. So the first part is, maybe let's have one strength and one weakness that you bring as an individual to your leadership. So one strength and one weakness in your leadership. And then the second part is, how are you going to build a team? How are you going to participate in building a team on tribal council? So who'd like to go first, Mark?
Okay, first, on the first part, I guess the strengths that I have would be, I've always attended the meetings, you know, as mandated, and made sure I got there on time. And so, and the weaknesses, not enough time to discuss all of those. But, so when I get elected, I have no idea exactly which is on each and every council member's mind. So no doubt that where you're saying compromise and negotiation, you know, is going to be a crucial aspect, you know, in dealing with the existing tribal council members who were on that tribe at that time. I really don't know how I could tell you I would approach it, because I need to know what they're thinking first.
Let's go next. Anna. David, let's pass this down here. The mic.
I feel my strength is that I like to set goals. My weakness is I'll do anything to achieve them. And so I spend a whole lot more time than most to achieve them. Team player, how to build consensus was your second question. Well, you know, council, whoever gets elected is actually going to enter and be able to work along a great group of council members right now. I think the most important thing is to admit that I don't know everything and be willing to learn new things, as well as listen more than I respond. So that would be my way to try to build teamwork. I think I have a lot of experience working with different teams right now, and so far that hasn't been an issue.
Let's go next. David.
Great question. Makes us think a little bit. Thank you very much. So for strengths, I think I have a pretty broad perspective of, I wrote a bunch of stuff down here, of tribal issues, things like history of the tribe, culture of the tribe, sovereignty, intertribal relations, effects of colonization in any country. So I have a really I've studied that pretty broadly for about 20, 25 years. for all tribes, not just us, so I kind of have a sort of broad perspective across Indian country and actually the world, because I've actually stayed some places in the world. And then I think one of the biggest part of this is I know that if I'm presented with a problem, an issue that I don't quite know everything about, and I don't know everything about everything, I don't know a lot about the accounting field, that kind of stuff, but I do know that I trust myself to be able to do the research and find the answers. And so just creating this document, it took me several days to do so, but I know how to search and research things and understand the issues behind things and find the answers if presented a problem. And so I do that. I did that at the tribe pretty broadly. And so weaknesses, I know this is going to be a large learning curve once you guys all vote for me and I'm on council, right? So there's a learning curve to be a political leader of the tribe, and I hope I'm up for that, and I'm sure I am up for that, and it's just changing my perspective a little bit, being more responsible for what I say, not just being, perhaps flippant or funny or critical on Facebook or wherever I'm at, and being more responsible for those kind of things will be better. And I think for establishing a team atmosphere or a team play, years ago when I was at the tribe, I realized that part of the power that everybody has is your friendships. Establishing and maintaining and going back to those friendships is very important. And if we don't do that, there's less teamwork. And so when I was on as a manager of the culture department, I would do that. I would establish friendships where we would meet yearly or twice yearly, sometimes yearly, with various partners for whatever we're doing in culture, whether with Wyoming National Forest or the BLM or the state government officials. And I would maintain those friendships, keep up those friendships. And I found that once you start devoting yourself to that kind of activity with everybody around you, then you're able to get more done. So that's my answer.
Thanks, Dave. Michael, or Chris, sorry, Michael.
Strengths and weaknesses, that's the basic question. Okay.
It's the first question.
The first prong of the question, okay. So in terms of strengths, I think one thing that I do quite well is I communicate. I like to write. I write as a hobby. I'm required to write a lot for school. I studied journalism at the University of Oregon. I had to write a lot for that. So I commit a lot of time to communicating with tribal members in various ways. Videos, podcasts, my blog / website. And I think I do a pretty good job about that. I think I've developed a body of work that I think I spoke to before you came into the room. I also think, and this is where school has helped me, I do a lot of research and give a lot of thought to positions that I'm passionate about. And I do my best to articulate my arguments as to why I support something or oppose it when we have our work sessions or at Wednesday night meetings. People may not always agree with the arguments I bring forth, but if I'm doing a lot of talking about something, I've probably thought it through and done my research. And when I call for meetings, and other council members can attest to this, I actually produce my own staff reports that I email to tribal council and refer to it as my attempt at a staff report, because I want people to be very clear about what it is I hope to accomplish with that meeting. As far as my weaknesses, over time I've lost my patience for sitting through meetings. I'm a big fan of the written word. I think meetings should not happen unless they have to. If staff generate a lot of reports for us, I'd rather spend an hour and a half reading that report than sitting an hour and a half sitting through a meeting where the subject gets way off topic. And I know other council members will agree with me, but I get really impatient with the meetings. I like to argue, but I don't like to argue when you're way off track or when people are not being honest about their motivations. So the way the tribal council functions is not really to my advantage, because I do get impatient at times, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe that impatience becomes very obvious to everyone in the room. But I've just become a big fan of the written word and written reports and being able to read up and do research at your own leisure.
20 seconds on the second part, teamwork.
Teamwork.
I said 20 seconds, but
20, on teamwork. Unless I get really mad, I think I have a really good working relationship with everyone on council, even the ones that I see eye to eye with on nothing. I'm capable of joking and not taking things too personally. Sometimes a nerve gets struck, I'll admit that, but I've learned you can't take anything too personally, because you're going to be working with so many people for years, and you can't come into work every day if you hate each other, because it creates a hostile work environment that is not good for staff and it's not good for the rest of council.
thanks. Michael.
Okay, let's start with strengths, because I like those first. I've always been able to juggle multiple projects at a time, and in doing so, thinking about the larger picture at the same time. The part of it's just my project management, that's experience that I've had, and then the ability to have conversations, especially within an internal audit. Nobody likes auditors, to be honest with you. They just don't like them. They put them off a little bit. So for me, in order to have those conversations and get people to trust, you just spend a lot of time listening. And the first thing I do in any audit is assure people that they know their job better than I do. I'm not the expert at their job, and I'm not afraid to admit that. But what I am going to do is spend a lot of time researching about their job. I'm going to spend the time watching how those processes within their job. So the ability to do those things, to have the hard conversations that result from that, and to not lose those people at the end, that's a strength that I think I have. Now within that is also kind of sometimes a little bit of my weakness. I can be wordy, I can be analytical, and then I can talk on and on about those things where I lost somebody minutes ago about those things. So to me, getting better at that, breaking things down more on a level that is, chewable, I guess, is one of the things that I'd like to do. So building a team, I kind of already talked about that. Especially, you have to allow people to tell their story. People have to be able to show their best side, right? You can't, especially in audit, I'll go back to that. Everybody wants to do well. They don't want to disappoint anybody. So finding a way to allow them to tell their story, to let them know and be safe within their story, I think that's kind of how you build a team. And recognizing that you don't know everything, and recognizing that you can't know everything, and that everybody that does come to the table has something to offer, and appreciate all of those things that they do offer. So I think that's how you would build a team, and it's important because if every tribal council member that does get elected represents a constituency. There was enough people that believed what they were saying and believed in the ideas that were being presented, that they chose them, that they voted for them. So even if I don't agree with that tribal council member all the time, and even some of those ideas, people do, and they need to be heard too, and that's fine. And to be able to disagree and move on, I think that's important. That's how you build a team.
So strengths and weaknesses, I would say for myself, my strength is probably mostly that being a tribal council member for me is not just a job, it's very personal, and it is definitely a priority in my life. And also my honesty, my compassion, and my open communication. I'm willing to discuss any issue with any person. My weaknesses would be my emotion, sometimes get the best of me, and then my written communication is not so great. I have a hard time. Chris can just whip out an article like nothing. It takes me days to write something down sometimes. So I need to work on that. Team player, compromise, negotiate. I would say that goes beyond just on tribal council, but certainly as tribal council, but also with our membership. I'm always interested in listening to all opinions, all views, and being respectful. I don't think it's a secret that Chris and I disagree on many things, little things or some big things. But I think Chris and I do a good job of being respectful to each other. So that's a good example of that. And always remembering that we work for the entire membership, not just those people that elected us, and always trying to have a goal of finding balance in all of your decisions and not being afraid to make a decision. Sometimes you don't have all the information that you'd like to have, but you have to make a decision and then stand by it. Right, wrong, popular, not popular, and learn from it if it becomes a learning opportunity. I accept decisions that are made by tribal council. And it's important at the tribal council table to always express your opinion, because you're one of 9 and you're representing 5,000 people, and all those different views need to be at that table. And that they're all very important. And at the end of the day, whatever the compromise, if I didn't get exactly what I wanted to get, I let it go. And I actually, at the end of every day, I have this thing I do where I just wipe my arms off and I just kind of throw it out. You just got to let it go and start fresh again. Don't hold, grudges or anger or any of that, because, like I said, some of our discussions become very emotional, and then you would not be productive if you did that. So I think that's everything I wrote down.
Great, thanks. Lisa.
Oh, sorry.
So I believe my strengths to be building and maintaining relationships. I very much have enjoyed my experience working with the tribe for all these years. And I have learned so much from our people, and I believe that is a strength that I can carry forward, not just if elected as a tribal council member, but I work very hard to do that in our community now. I take being a role model in our community serious. I think it's important that elected tribal council recognize, like Tanya said, this is not a job. This is a responsibility that you are voted in to do, and I believe that you have to have integrity, you have to be committed to your people, and you have to be willing to listen. And I believe those are my strengths. My strengths are sometimes my weakness as well, because I sometimes have a hard time balancing. I am very committed and very passionate about the work I do, and sometimes my family, thank you for being here today, Matea, they don't get to see me as much as they probably would like to, and a lot of our life centers around my commitment to the tribe. As far as teamwork, I love teamwork. That's the only way that I think anything worth happening takes place. I do a lot of coalition work in prevention. We work with the community. We work with other programs. We show up at other people's events. We support what other people are doing. And I think that it's very important to be willing and open to working as a team.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to do a quick spot check. So we have 45 minutes, which gives us about time for 2 more questions. Okay, so I'm going to call on 2 more. So let's go to that. Yes, Simone, you want to go ahead and ask a question there? Yeah.
Okay. So, my name is Simone Auger, and I would like to ask you, we all know the world is in drastic change right now, and as far as coming to the council as elected representatives for the membership, what innovative idea do you bring, just one innovative idea, would you bring to the table for consideration? Thank you.
So one innovative idea.
Thinking technology, healthcare, anything that comes to your mind.
Anything comes to mind, thinking technology, healthcare, one innovative idea. So take a moment to think, and when you're ready, go ahead, so go ahead.
For me, that's actually probably a pretty easy question, and it's something that I've talked about it in council. I think that it goes to Chris's point about communication, and I would like to see us implement some kind of a system using, whether it be FaceTime or some kind of a webcast communication with our tribal members for our meetings, and allow tribal members that don't live in the area or can't travel to the meetings to submit questions, live questions, and answers to their tribal council.
Mark, I think I saw your hand up. Do you want to go next? All right.
Okay, I think that is what I would like to see the tribe do first of all, is that we hopefully can agree to sit down and do some kind of a comprehensive community development plan for the tribe as a whole. Because you need to have some kind of a template or some kind of a chart to effectively, set up some goals, and time frames and things like that, and try to analyze all the possible impacts regardless of what the action is. If you're going to talk about putting up more housing, then what's going to be the impact on the existing utilities, your infrastructure, lights, water, sewer, roads, what have you. So there's just a lot of things that you have to, kind of taking a look at the broader picture, so to speak. So that was, be one of my goals right out of the gate. And I have many goals.
Thanks, Mark. Let's go to Michael. You had to say that next.
Well, now I'm not sure if this counts as innovative because he's kind of talking about the same thing. It's a little bit different though, so I'm going to go ahead and go with it. Right now, our budget and our looking forward is really just kind of a 1 year, perhaps 2 year cycle. And like I said in my opening, I really believe in the 7 generations and looking 3 generations forward, 3 generations back. And I would like that reflected in our planning. I would want to know, and it would be a community development a lot better than the way we did our community input meetings, where it's just people making statements. Like roundtable discussions. Where do we want to be? What do we want to do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 50, 75 years? What do we want to do? Where do we want to end up? Because right now we kind of look at economic opportunities just within themselves. And that's, if you were to look at them on a much broader scale, they might make sense. Whereas if you just look at it as, are we going to make money on this? It might not pan out just looking at it individually. So incorporating our master plan, developing our master plan as a tribe, and deciding where we want to be, where we want to start those investments, and maybe we want to do a pool, but it's not in years 1 through 5, it's years 5 through 10. And then to communicate that to everybody, it's like, hey, don't worry, we're going to get there. And it isn't going to matter so much as tribal council changes every year, because we, the people, have developed this master plan, and we know where we're going to go, and tribal council is just going to help implement that plan. So I guess, I don't know if that's too innovative. I think it's innovative. It's a little bit different from Mark's saying, and I guess that's what I would do.
Angela.
Well, I agree with Tanya. I think I mentioned that at the last PAC meeting, that I think a Q&A is a wonderful idea it gives our membership an opportunity to ask questions. So I just wanted to say that real quick. But I know I'm limited to one. So my one innovative idea, if you want to call it that, is to add additional housing to our tribe. I know Mark is concerned about what it would do to the local area, but I keep in mind that when the tribe was reinstated, our ancestors wanted our members to return to our tribe, and I think it's very important that we give them a place to return to. Currently there is housing, there's tribal housing as well as elder housing, but as most people know, housing is very, very hard to come by, and I think that it would be wonderful to explore the option of possibly adding more housing to the Grand Ronde Tribal area. But obviously with more housing would come additional needs, such as the grocery store. So that's my one innovative idea. Thanks.
David.
if you give me time, I can name a number of them. But my one idea, I've been thinking about it for several years actually, and part of the problems that we were faced when I was working for the tribe is how to represent the tribe in all the areas that we come from. And we come from a pretty vast area, something like 19 million acres in Western Oregon, from the California border all the way up into Washington State. And so it was just not possible for any one department to represent their department in all those areas. It's just literally impossible. But I did notice that we do have tribal members living in all those areas. So what if, in terms of representation and even perhaps education of the local communities, we empower many of those tribal members as representatives of the tribe, pay them a travel wage, meeting wage to go sit on committees and represent the tribe. And you could have monthly meetings with them, talk about what the tribal positions are on various things, and give them some sort of a stipend to use to represent the tribe in Medford, in Ashland, in Portland, over in Cascade Locks, wherever it is, wherever we have tribal members that are living in the lands that we originally claimed as our own. And I think that their ability to educate folks in all those areas about what our tribal histories are, what our tribal policy is, and then pass information back to the tribe about what's going on in these areas would be immense. And I think, that would eliminate some of the travel costs that we have today for travel, for perhaps sometimes 20, 30 people traveling to Medford or something. It would eliminate a lot of stuff, a lot of the impediments that we have today to doing that as a tribe. Thanks.
Lisa, you had it here. Then we'll go to Chris.
Given the fact that I feel like we're in a time where we really need to be conservative, really looking at growth and spending, I would really, I don't know, Bryan and I many years ago were on a student advisory council that was part of the education committee, and I think the hope or the idea of that was to get some ideas from younger people, and we're younger people at the time, of how we saw what was happening in Indian country, what we wanted for our membership, and looking at that. And I would really like to look at trying to develop some type of committee of young people that could get together and meet and to give us some ideas about resources and options. We still meet in a lot of ways. I mean, it's great to meet and gather and see each other and do that, but there is a lot of ways that are really cost effective to communicate that we haven't really accessed yet. And I think the younger generation has a great pulse on what those types of things could be, and I would really like to see us, and if I had one innovative idea, I'd like to see us figure out how we can tap into that knowledge and really utilize that to move us forward.
It's hard to believe that's 25 years ago already. It's amazing. Chris.
It's not really innovative, but I think it would be innovative for Grand Ronde, and it's kind of a broad issue. And that is, I'd like to see the development of like a full-fledged news media, radio station, maybe an online TV. It doesn't have to be every day, but right now our news reporting consists of broadcasting legislative action committee meetings and our Wednesday night meetings, and then we have a twice a month tribal newsletter, and then a once a month tribal council newsletter. And yet, having done this for over a decade now, I can honestly say that even all the stuff that gets printed and broadcast to me is not even a fraction of what actually goes on in the tribe. And I think if you had a news media that was maybe not every day, but more frequently, I think you'd have like a more informed membership. If you could have like a radio station where tribal members could go on, tribal council members could go on and explain their decisions. Certain staff members could go on and explain what's going on in their programs. That's what I'd like to see. But I think and this is just my opinion, based upon what I see going on in the tribe, a twice-month publication, once-a-month tribal council newsletter, and just a couple videos a month does not sufficiently cover all the events and all the activities that are going on throughout the tribal governments, including areas in which our tribal government is working outside of Grand Ronde. When we go to DC, when we go and meet with people in Portland, when we send staff to speak at different events. So like I said, it's not innovative, but I think it would be innovative for Grand Ronde.
That's curious. All right, so I'm going to turn to the audience for the last question. Please.
Okay, it's not my question, but a tribal member that could not be here today asked me to ask this question, and it is, tell me the difference between good and exceptional, and some analogies that I get, like your work ethic. Is your work ethic good, or is it exceptional? Is your attendance good, or is it exceptional? So I don't know.
Yeah, so I think
Tell me the difference between good and exceptional.
so what is the difference between good and exceptional by your own definition? And what would you describe your own work ethic or your attendance to be? Either good or exceptional? So look for a volunteer to go first. Go ahead.
So I think historically my attendance has always been good, but I do have to be honest that I miss 4 to 5 hours a week out of the office because the days I have classes, I try to leave the office by between 2:30 and 3. So, and I explained this at the last forum. I've kind of paid for that out of my own pocket to make up for that, but I believe other than that, my attendance is pretty good, and I think my work ethic's pretty good. As I've explained, I do a lot of stuff outside of normal office hours. I attend a lot of local government events. Like I said, I do a lot of this podcasting, videos, blogging. I do much of that on my spare time. It's tough because, again, this is not, I don't think this position is an 8 to 5 position, so and I think people want to tend to measure it by that. But I believe that I earn my pay and I put in as much time as I can to this job. There have been periods previously where I think I was getting burnt out, but overall I think I'm exceptional. Good and exceptional is kind of weird to zero in on those 2 words specific, but I think I do pretty good.
Angela. And Michael?
Okay, so I'm going to try to define the difference. To me, good is just meeting the basic expectation. Exceptional to me is going above and beyond expectations. So regarding my work ethic, I think other than I tend to be 1 minute late often, I think my attendance is exceptional. I don't have absences. I have tardies because I'm 1 minute late, but I'm there, and so I feel like my attendance is definitely exceptional. My work ethic is probably halfway between good and exceptional because I do try to go above and beyond the expectations. I don't want to just meet the minimum qualifications for anything and everything I do. I want to give my best at everything I do. I'm standing for myself and who I am, so of course I'm not going to just try to settle for good.
Well, I didn't know that was specific to attendance. Was it specific to attendance or anything? Okay. Attendance-wise, I've since I was 25, I've worked a salaried position, and I guess good would be just to put in your time and go home, and exceptional is you're working whenever it's needed, and that happens a lot. And there's times that I'm at home and an idea will come to me and I'm in the middle of an audit and I'm going to go write it down because I don't want to lose that idea. So I would say as far as work ethic, that would be an exceptional. I mean, I know people say don't take your work home, but I've never not been able to do that. And then an example that for the tribe would be the community input meetings. I thought they were good. I liked the idea of it, but I just didn't like the way we participated. And Chris teases me and he'll tell me that I stormed out of the room. But I did not. He just teases me about that. But no, because it's taken it to that next level. We actually talk about this a lot with at the casino, where they have minimum internal control standards, and people want to live by that, and we're always reminding them, you know, that's the minimum. We can do better than the minimum. So I think that's kind of the difference that I would say between good and exceptional.
So my definition of good and exceptional is pretty much the same as what Angela said. I think good would be meets expectations and exceptional would be above that. And I think with 5,000 tribal members, you're going to have different definitions of what meets and what exceeds. For me personally, I believe I am above just meeting expectations. So I would say that I do exceptional. This attendance came up at the last PAC Forum, so I did actually go back on the calendar and look to see how many days I've taken off. And I've taken around 12 personal days and I believe 5 medical days this year. And I will say that this year was unusual for me because both my grandson and my father had surgeries, and I took time off for those. What was it, about 2 years ago, I had surgery. My doctor wanted me to take 6 weeks off of work. I took 6 working days off. So I believe that's exceptional. And again, what I said earlier, it's not just a job. It becomes your life too. And my daughter's in the audience today, and she can attest that I work a lot at home, and I may not be sitting down writing something, but it's always in my mind. I'm jotting things down, I'm mulling over. So I think I put in more than enough time with attendance and work ethic.
Lise, do you want to go next?
Yes, I agree with everyone's definitions. Good is really meeting expectation. Exceptional is going above and beyond. I think that there is the basic coming to work and doing your job, and there's also being exceptional at what you do, which really is about caring about the people you work with and giving your best. And I believe that I always give my best to everybody that walks through our door. I do my best to meet the membership and to talk and to provide services that meet their needs.
So we have Mark and David, I think. So anybody? David.
Okay. Good versus exceptional. That would kind of apply in relative terms. As a tribal council member, I feel it is a council member's duty to make decisions that's going to assure the overall well-being of the tribe as a whole. So, and have the convictions to stand behind the decision that they make. So one person may think it's good, another may think it's exceptional. And then some other people, no doubt, will say that was totally abysmal, the worst they've ever seen. So that's about the best way I can find to answer the question.
All right, David.
So I may over-intellectualize this a little bit. I was thinking, because you guys all took the best answer, so I consider good, you know, somebody showing up for work and making sure you do what you're supposed to do on the job, and you know, being there, just doing your work. Exceptional, I think, is inspiring those around you, and I think there are individuals who do that. You know, that you get to the point in your job where you realize that you're the only one that knows how to do your job. So why not work as a team with the rest of your community to inspire them to do their jobs better? So I think that's exceptional. When people begin to develop relationships, teams, team building, teamwork, whatever you want to call it, and inspiring your whole unit, whatever that is, whether it's your department, your unit, your section, your program, to do better work. And that's exceptional. And so that people come to that sometimes with age, with experience, with wisdom, whatever it is. And I tried to do that, and I don't know if it was exceptional because somebody tried to lead me off, but I try to do that in my staff, where I hired people who were passionate about their work, even if they didn't have experience, and we tried to train them up to do their jobs, and they learned how to do their jobs in terms of exhibit design and museum design, things like that. And we got the museum going, mainly because I kept on supporting them in everything they did, whether they wanted education or training or whatever happened. I tried to inspire that in everybody, and I think it worked. I guess I'm not going to be arrogant and say I'm exceptional, but I think that I tried to inspire that exceptionalism in everybody around me. So thanks.
All right, so we're to the final closing statements by you all. We've got about 25 minutes, so this will probably move in a little bit earlier than I thought. The last two questions were pretty short, so that's good. It's not a bad thing for us to get out here on a beautiful day. But what I would ask you to do in your closing comments is convince us why you're going to win, why we should vote for you. Tell us why you think your candidacy is going to win. So please, in the closing statements, these 3 minutes, convince us why you're going to come on. Okay, so I'll frame that up. And then whoever would like to go first with their closing statement, please raise your hand. Nobody wants to go first.
I was gonna say.
Go, Chris, yeah.
Well, the reason I'm going first is because I can't stand dead silence. When I'm in class and the professor asks a question, I'll raise my hand just because I get tired of the silence. It's really, it's kind of embarrassing. So, why am I going to win? Well, I think I'm going to win because I've developed this body of work that shows I'm always willing to communicate with members. My website that I've been operating for 7 years, I've been doing, for this election season, I'm doing a post every single day. It's usually anywhere between 400 and 800 words. There are a couple times where I've posted videos and websites. I'm really trying to make my position known on every issue that's relevant to me. So this is probably the most time I've committed to communicating during my campaign. In the past, I would do it a couple times a week. This time, on my website, Grand Ronde Post, wordpress.com, I'm posting something every single day. And I think that people who know me and look at what I've always stood for will realize that I've always stood for communication. I've always wanted to help inform the membership. And that's something that it's a goal that I will continue to work on, even if I get reelected. You can always expect that from me. I think you know what you're getting. I do have some ideas about how I want to improve communication and openness in government in general, but I think I've been pretty consistent about making my positions known and interacting with people and communicating with people, and I think people know that they can count on that if they vote for me.
Who would like to go next? Michael.
Why will I win? I think the biggest reason I think that I will win is because I think I bring something to the table that nobody else brings to the table. I bring the accounting background, the economic background, the analytical background. That's what I've been doing my whole life. And within doing that, I have the hard conversations with people, and I'm not afraid of them. It's hard, it's difficult, and Tanya was talking about writing, and Chris does whip them out, but when I'm doing my findings in an audit, I will spend sometimes half the day refining a paragraph to make sure that the words and the connotations within those words don't give something that I don't intend. And you reread those, and then you put it out there. And so, having those hard conversations, including with the people that you generally fall in line with. I've been at a board meeting where I'm talking to somebody like, say, Denise, and we completely disagree on a subject. We might agree on a lot of things, but I'll go right back and forth with her and support my position, and she'll do the same with hers. And there's no animosity in that, and I think I'm really good at that. So, willing to have the hard conversations, to put yourself out there and say what you think, and allow other people to also do the same. I think that's why I'm going to win.
Thanks, Mike. Mike, go ahead. David? Oh, yeah, Tanya. Let's go Tanya and then David. Yes, you had her. Sorry. Go ahead, Tanya.
So in closing, I just want to again say thank you to everybody that came and nice job to all the candidates. I guess I'm not going to say why am I going to win, because I don't know if I'm going to win. And honestly, you know, I'm going to do the best that I can do, and I've done the best that I can do for the last 3 years. I'm going to do that during this campaign, and if I win, I'll be honored to continue to work for you. And if I don't win, then I'll congratulate whoever does win and wish them the best. I do think that people know that I'm not an alarmist. I'm not advocating for big change. That's not what I stand for. I stand for protecting and preserving what our elders and our ancestors have built for us, and continuing to improve on our services and the programs that we currently offer. I am a huge advocate for improving individual self-sufficiency. I believe that's a huge step toward relieving some of our gaming dollar expenses, and will help the tribe in the long run. So I guess if you stand for those things, think those things are important, then I would ask for you to vote for me. Thank you.
I'm going to go to David here and Angela, and then we'll go back down. Yeah.
So for years, since I lived in California, I've been on this arc of wanting to come back to the tribe and work. I began working, educating myself in California at the junior college. And at that point, I had kind of a dream to come back to Grand Ronde after it was restored and work here. And I kept working on that. Went to the University of Oregon for a number of years. Kept on working on that in that direction, trying to figure out how I could contribute back to the tribe, who I was a member of. And eventually, I had that opportunity in 2006, and I worked at the tribe till 2014. And through that time, I maintained my direction, and I still maintain it. Even though I'm not working at the tribe, I still research the histories. Every day I devote 2 hours or more to researching the history of the tribe, reading about the history of the tribe, finding new parts of what happened to us that nobody knows about, nobody's written about ever, or in 100 years or so. And so bringing those out. And like Chris, I have my own blog. I have over 190 articles on my blog of various histories I've written, and I'm putting together larger pieces that address our history in a comprehensive way. And it's a significant history. I mentioned 19 million acres. I mean, we had something like 35 to 45 tribes living in that area that came to Grand Ronde. And so we are the descendants of all that cultural wealth, and yet it seemed to me when I was at the tribe, very few people knew that history, and I really want to solve that problem. And I think that's what I'd like to do with the tribe, is inspire that kind of devotion to the tribal future. And I want people to vote for me, because I'm not working necessarily for myself. I'm working for the tribe, and I have been for a couple of generations.
And then Angela, I think, was next. Then we'll go down to Mark and Lisa.
Okay. The reason I think I'm going to win, that sounds so funny, is because I'm hoping that I can convince you all to vote for me. I want you to vote for me not because of who I am, where I came from, but I want you to vote for me based on what I believe in. If your beliefs are in line with mine, then I would hope you choose to vote for me and know that I will work for this tribe exceptionally, not good. I've always been interested in the future of this tribe. As I stated earlier and many times before, I've been volunteering for the Tribal Member Review Board because I am concerned about the future of the tribe, as well as the children's future of this tribe. Obviously, some of us older generations will not be here in quite a few years to come, which leads me to my next statement. I'm a planner. I take great pride in being an organized planner. And when I look at what I want to do for this tribe, I'm going to plan for the future generations ahead, not just us. So I hope I have your vote. And if you have any questions or would like to reach out to me, please feel free to email me at angelaforcouncil@outlook.com. Thank you.
Lisa or Mark?
I would like to also thank everybody today who came. I struggle in forums like this in a sense that I like to have an opportunity to think about what I'm going to say and do a little more research before I sometimes just kind of just speak out on something, especially when it's somewhat hypothetical, because we are not serving on tribal council at this time. I speak a lot about my longevity with the tribe, and I don't do that to try to make myself seem better than someone else. I think that that can work for you or against you. I believe that in the time that I have been here, that I have built relationships with people, that people trust me, they believe in me. I hope that I have inspired people. That is a goal of mine, to do that. I try to be the best person that I can be in hopes that that will inspire others to do the same, understanding that we all have our own individual struggles and successes, and how we get there is not always the same. I want the membership to know that I believe in serving all members. I think my reputation in the last 21 years that I've been here, I've showed that. And I hope that people see that I am willing to work. I hope that people will see that I am committed to the tribe and that I love my people.
Mark, do you want to bring us home?
Okay, today, I'm just here to ask for your votes to get the opportunity to see if we can get the tribe going in some positive direction. When I first served, we did make some pretty significant accomplishments by securing the reservation and the gaming. So to me, it's not a matter of he or she who wins gets all the marbles, or to the victors go the spoils. I mean, it's just my goal to preserve what we have now, and maybe do some positive expansion in the future through jobs and economic development, and making sure that everybody will have a good health coverage, and then the education opportunities for all tribal members. So that's about the best I can do. I'll cut myself off. That's the best I can do for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. All right, so great job, everyone. Let's have a round of applause for everybody here. Mike, you want to say something real quick?
My name is Mike Clements, and I'm from Warm Spring, one of the tribes that hates the Grand Ronde. I want to tell you, just like I told the people that were here last year, I love Grand Ronde. I was taught by our old people that we're all brothers and sisters. And when we heard of the Grand Ronde, I remember the old timers that came to my father-in-law's house. I was young like these people, going to go to council. I was 33, serving on council. Along comes Running Bear, Sonny Tom, some Linos, some Knights. And they said, my father-in-law Langley, who told me I was smarter than I looked. I told that joke here last year about the Grand Ronde. Anyway, he said, we need your help. We know you can help us. So that time they wanted to get to the governor. And so we were able to help. But the older people on the council told me at that time, Indians help Indians. We know Grand Ronde are Indian people. Our job is to help. So let's do what we can to make sure that they get their land back, they get their recognition back. So I was a young member then. I was the president of a national organization. It was a timber association. So my older people always pushed me to get into responsible roles and be for everybody. When you go to help Indians, You help everybody. You don't just help yourself. So that's the way I see it. I want to leave this little message to these people that are going to look to your leadership. I feel now as an older person, now as I've grown through that time, I have some obligation and responsibility to pass on that kind of knowledge. So whenever I come to Grand Ronde and I see Mark, and I see the Merciers, and I see the Langleys, and the Linos, and all the people that are there, I feel like I'm at home. So that's the way I think that those that are advising us to work together. My own personal opinions about the non-Indians is their theory in life is capitalism. So they draw lines. Our line is on top of Mount Jefferson. Our line is here and there. So we start fighting over where we come from. But I'll tell you this, as an older person, we're all responsible for the resources. Those resources are going to support our people for generations to come. If I could wave the magic wand, we'd all be healthy as possible. We would be in perfect health, because then we would we'd look at one another, we'd love one another, and we'd take care of one another. So when it comes, you're going to have those differences. I tell the Umatillas, don't cross my line. Well, you come over here, you're going to be in for a fight. And so I heard about this tarot thing just recently, the tarot little struggle that we're all kind of fighting about, the 60-mile radius the white man puts on us. Well, my theory is, we should sit down and figure out how we can take best advantage of that tarot law for your people and my people. I'm going to sit down with you for a day or two. Let's figure it out. Not draw a line and say, "Whoa, you're taking over my territory." No way. So that's me. That's the way I was taught. That's the way I grew up. Okay, so when I come to the powwow or whatever and you see me around, you call me brother. My name is Isu. That name's on our treaty. My old people knew that I would stand up when time was needed, and just a voice. I'm just one voice. I'm here amongst you, my brothers and sisters. And I hope that voice will say, let's work together. Don't draw lines, let's come together, and we'll figure it out. But it's always about our people. And we're not going to get rid of it. I keep trying to send them back over to England, but they won't go. So we're going to have to take care of them as long as they're here. So I just want to say that to you. Love one another, let's take care of one another, and let's work together as nations. I pass that on to you young ones.
Mike every year gives a really great speech. Please come back next year, we'll be as good. So next week we have our final forum down in Eugene. So I hope to have everybody there. I want to thank you all for being here. This is the first time we've had every single candidate make one of the forums. In years past we have 14, so it's hard to get all 14. But thank you to all 7 for being here. This is the first time we've had everybody here, so we'll see you guys next week. Great job. You want to say?
Can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick, the forum next week in Eugene, I have a wedding that day in Staten at 2 p.m. So I'm going to the forum. Starts at 11.
Yeah, give people
But I'll have to leave at 12:30.
Okay.
So if you have a specific question, maybe for me, I'm happy to take it before the meeting as well, or before I take off.
Sounds good, yeah. We start, at these ones that are outside of Grand Ronde, we start an hour later to give people time to drive, to be there. Eugene's quite a ways, about a 2-hour drive, hour and a half drive. So, so we'll see you at 11 o'clock at Grace. It's on the Facebook page, the address and all that. I can't remember the name of the church. We'll be there. But yeah, please take a moment to go talk to the candidates, and you guys all did really well. So congratulations, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Good job.